to pull an image from the ECR service and start a container from our EC2 instance. Okay, so we already created this EC2 instance last time, and also we pushed the image, Docker image, onto the ECR repository. So now we want to connect them together. So we connect into this instance and then link them together to pull the image out and then start a container on this server. Okay, so first thing first, we need to log in to this server, and we already have the Docker installed on the server, and so we just need to copy this SSH command and then put it here. Make sure the key is under this folder, and then logged in, and then for the Docker, okay, so we already have it. And if you don't have the EC2 user added into the Docker group, just do it as in the description of the previous videos. But now let's see, we already have this Nginx server running on server 80, right? So it's the previous Docker container we created. Now we want to start the Docker. Okay, so we can just use Docker run. Similarly, like the last time, how we ran in the local host, but instead of using the Docker image of our local, we have to use the Docker image location in the ECR, right? So here, this is the image URL. So we need to start a Docker image, okay, in the daemon and the port number. Let's just don't use daemon. Let's just use port number 8080. So if you don't use daemon, then all the log will print out in the console. Okay, and if you quit, and then the Docker image, Docker container will be stopped. Okay, so here, and then we need to put our Docker container there, and also one thing is the name. Okay, so let's just set a better name, like we can call it ingredient, okay, API. All right, so if we do this, you can see if we hit enter, and it will tell us no basic authentication credentials, right? So basically, we are trying to pull the Docker image from this site, but we don't have any credential. Basically, we didn't log in, right? So we have to log in first. Use Docker, how we log in. There are two ways. First, we can use AWS login, right? Just like the same way we did here. When we push, and we have a login here. Okay, so we can reuse this login. Okay, but in order to use this one, so we have to set up AWS credentials on this server, because by default this server doesn't have anything to do with AWS credential. Okay, so we don't have the .aws folder, and but it will have the AWS command. Okay, so it will pre-install the AWS CLI, but it doesn't have the configuration of AWS. So if we want, we can copy the credential, the security key, and then the secret key, okay, to this server. Okay, let's just try to do that. We can use AWS configure, and then we put the access key, and then put the secret key. Okay, but for this, we have to copy it from our local host, because that's the only where we use it. Okay, so let's start a new console and go to AWS command folder, and then just look at our credential. Okay, credentials. Okay, so this is the access key. Oops. And this is my secret key, and then region. Okay, so default region name, this doesn't have any. We have to use US. Okay, East 1. Okay, and then default format JSON. I remember if you don't type anything, the default is US East 1 and JSON, so you don't need to. You just hit enter. Okay, it will fill by itself. Anyways, so now we can run the command. Okay, so here, where is it? Go to the here, and then copy, and then run the command. Okay, and it will tell us the login is succeeded. Okay, so then now we can run our code. Okay, run our container code. But here, keep it in mind, the same issue will happen again. So our API or our Spring Boot will try to connect to a database, but it doesn't exist, right? In this case, it makes things even worse. Is it doesn't even have a local MySQL. You cannot connect to your local one because it's not publicly accessible. Right now, this server is running in a public network. It has its own IP address. Okay, so everything is publicly available. So it cannot access our local. Okay, it's different from our local host now. It will give us error, but we're not focusing on whether it will run or not. We're gonna focus on whether this Docker image will be pulled or not. Okay, we can also use the Docker pull command instead of run, but run of course gonna pull. So then here you can see now we can start pulling the image, right? So this is the progress. It will start pulling the Docker image. Okay, so because it's a private repository, so only whoever has the AWS access can start pulling the information. Okay, but also it will give us this error saying that the request image platform does not match the dedicated host platform. Okay, and no specific platform was requested. So this is also another issue of Mac chips. Okay, so if you watch the Kafka videos, also we have the same issue. So this Mac silicon chip gave me a lot of headache. Okay, because we are building our image using a platform of ARM64. Okay, but now the platform is a Linux AMD 64, so they are not compatible with each other. Okay, so we're gonna fix this one, but at this moment we're only gonna look at the pull. Okay, so now the pulling is done. So if we do docker ps, okay, and we don't have a running one, we don't have the running API. Okay, and if we have -all, we'll have this one is here. Okay, so this is the name ingredient API. And also Docker images will also have this image pulled. Okay, so this 499 megabyte image is pulled here. But we cannot start it. Okay, so the two reasons. First is the image itself is not built for this platform. Second is the database connectivity. Okay, there's no available database for this. Okay, so we're gonna fix this. Right, thanks.